Hello, 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 and welcome to Exhale with Regina. We are so happy to be here and welcome, welcome, welcome. This is so exciting. I have a special, amazing woman here today, Kathy Lander. And before we get into talking and the interview, I want to share a little bit about Exhale with Regina. So, here, what I want you to know is that Exhale with Regina is all about women exhaling into their purpose. And this podcast is about women who have found their purpose or embraced their purpose, really sharing their challenges, adversities, and their wins with other women just to say, you can do it too. So, Exhale with Regina is about women seeing themselves, their talents, their gifts, and making sure that they are embracing who they are. And so, Kathy, welcome to Exhale with Regina. And I always ask my guests to take a breath. Can you take a breath with me today and
Yes.
exhale? All right, next exhale. Shh. Yeah. So thank you so much for being here on Exhale with Regina, Women Owning Their Power. And we're going to also invite the guests. If you have any questions for Kathy, feel free to ask her because we want to be very interactive. This is not just about Kathy and I, this is about you, the audience. And so, Kathy, I want to read your impressive bio to everyone. And, before we came on, I had to let Kathy educate me on some things. And so this is really awesome. And what's so awesome about it, Kathy, is interacting with women who I may know or may not know, but really doing some powerful things in the earth. So here, Kathy D. Lander is the North America Powertrain Controller for Ford Motor Company. She has financial responsibility for engines, transmission, and axle plants in the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. Kathy has held this position since December 2020. However, she's been with Ford since 1992. Kathy has served as a manufacturer controller over the past 20 years for Assembly, Louisville, Wayne, and Norfolk assembly plants and powertrain plants, Sterling Axle and Windsor engine site. Kathy, you have really been around.
I have. I
I
have.
see. Other assignments have included a number of other financial positions within the company's product development, marketing, sales, internal control, and audit operations. In her positions as controller, Lander is responsible for ensuring financial or fiscal responsibility in Ford's manufacturing plants while delivering exciting products to Ford's customers. The position held in various functions during her tenure at Ford has provided Kathy the knowledge and skill to set the drive, the business financially, while understanding the key elements of the manufacturing operation and the strategic direction of the enterprise. Kathy earned a bachelor's degree in business administration from Bruton. Is that
Bruton.
Bruton?
Yeah,
Okay.
Bruton.
Okay. Parker College in 1990. Now, I'm not surprised, okay? Summa cum laude, and a Master of Business Administration, Financial Concentration from the Ohio State University in 1992, pace setter. A native of Burrick,
Brunswick.
Boswick, okay, Georgia. Kathy now lives in Southfield, Michigan with her daughter Joy, Joi. Okay. She enjoys traveling with family. Is this Carol?
Capuro.
Carol
Capuro.
and jigsaw puzzles. Now, Kathy, what is Carol?
Capuro.
Okay, go ahead, Kathy. What is that?
It's like Sudoku, or
Oh,
Sudoku,
okay.
but it's
Okay.
different. It's a lot of math and adding. So where Sudoku is like, put the right numbers in the box. Kokiro is more like what numbers
Procure.
add to 10, and there could be various versions and which numbers go in the box. So it's a little more involved. I love numbers, so
Yes, you do. But that is excellent. And you know what? So let's start. You started your new position in 2020, right? December of 2020. How was that for you? Because you have been all over and now you're taking over this larger group. So tell me about it.
the change. So prior to the role that I have now, I was actually in the plants. Any of the plants that you mentioned, I was in the plant working with the operations to deliver the budget. Right. So every day there was no ambiguity about what the objective is. Cars need to come off the line. Engines need to come off the line. So engaging with the operations, hands on, etc. The job that I have now requires me to manage individuals that were like me, right? When I was in the plant, I have 12 plants of responsibility. But the difference now is I have to learn. I'm learning. It doesn't come easily how to step away from the math, the day-to-day, the very thing that I love to be engaged in, and focus on leading the team, focused on
Yeah.
strategies, and focus on developing those that are around me so that they are able to deliver the responsibilities of their individual plants or organizations or departments. And so for me, I'm reading books about leadership and how to get the best out of those who work for me. Of course, in the other roles I had, it depends on the plant, but 5 to 6 people who reported to me. Now I have the entire organization. I have 60-ish people at various levels. And so it's like, okay, Kathy, my main responsibility is not the day to day necessarily. It's ensuring that the individuals around me and those that report to me have what they need to be successful themselves and have what they need to deliver the objectives of the business. And that's no small task. Leading people takes courage.
Yes, yes. I love that you said that because oftentimes, Kathy, it's almost presented as something that you just have a talent for. People have a talent to lead, right?
Mm.
And that is so far from the truth. So tell me, how did you make that transition, or did you ever even accept that it was just natural to lead people?
Um, I care outside of Ford Motor Company, just who I am. I care about people. I love my family. I love my neighbors. So I want everyone to always do well. And one of the things about, I believe, excelling and being true to the self is being authentic. So when I
Yes.
go to work, naturally, my first thing is for everyone to do well. And if I see someone who needs development, let me help you. I don't mind getting my hands dirty. If there's an assignment that needs to get done, we'll get the assignment done. Now let's talk about where the deficiencies are or the opportunities are, and let's work to improve upon them. So a part of
Yes.
leadership is recognizing the talent that you have before you, and being able to help upskill those individuals. I didn't learn that from Ford necessarily. I have a short story about basketball. So I played high
All
school
right.
basketball,
Okay.
and I was the point guard and we had a really really good team. And I had one of our forward slash centers was really really good. And being the point guard, you kind of manage the floor. And I knew what she could do. And so when we were on the court together, I would say jump. She knew exactly what I meant. Or I would say go left, go right, duck, whatever the word is, she would know what to do. And so there was a game where my coach took her out and put someone else in.
Hmm.
And well, I used those same phrases and words with the individual that came into the game, and she didn't catch it. She didn't jump. She didn't go left. She didn't go right. She didn't understand. So
Yes.
in this game, I was upset. I was upset, right? And so the coach
Mm.
called a timeout, and I'm like, "Why did you put her in? She can't jump. She didn't know what to do." The coach said, "It's your fault."
Hmm.
I said, "Why is it my fault?" She said, "Because you always need to know who you're on the playing field with. You always
Okay.
need to know." And so when it comes to leadership, that means you always need to know who's on your team, what their skills and abilities are, who, when there are assignments that are coming or projects, how to best use your resources to meet the objective, and at the same time, how to stretch those individuals. And so when I was in high school, I was like, Amanda can jump, I just said her name, but she can jump. And, and I assumed that everyone had those same skills and they did not. And so in order for us to lead and be successful, it really is about understanding the individuals who report to us and having enough courage to accept who they are and develop them. And at the same time, as a leader, having compassion. And for me, also understanding what the objectives of the organization um, might be, and how do I deliver. So I'm still learning. I came with some foundation, Regina,
Yes, yes.
but I'm still learning. Like, we talked about earlier, Kokura. I love numbers. I like adding something. And today I'm not doing the work. I have no physical daily deliverables. And so I'm transitioning from, the daily doing the math to understanding how to drive the organization forward, how to be strategic, how to develop and get the best out of the resources. So I'm not there yet, but I'm reading, I'm learning, um, taking advice from my mentors, etc. And so it's an evolution. I think it's an evolution for all of us. If someone said they know they're great leaders and they don't have any opportunity to improve, that's just not true.
That, I love, first, I love everything that you just said because that's authentic. Here we have Camille, I'm sorry, Williams. Kathy is the real deal.
Camille is biased.
Okay. Kathy, you talked about being compassionate. You mentioned, knowing who's on your team, knowing their skills, the weaknesses, the strengths, and leading, understanding where people are. And when people don't understand who's on their team, that's even a child just trying to assume that they know or that they should know.
Yes.
And that's a lot of time what you can see in leadership, or leadership is so caught up in being in meetings, and being so disconnected
Yes.
from their staff. Can you name a time where you realized that you were disconnecting and you had to come back and reconnect?
I think, yeah, I'll talk about it's in the space of diversity, but it still rings true to your question.
Okay.
And so, much like other companies, diversity, equity, and inclusion is important to Ford, as it is hopefully other companies
Okay.
in the U.S. and obviously in the world. And if I can be, frank, when I was thinking about diversity, I'm thinking, African American, I'm thinking women, and whenever we'd have a meeting, that's the first place I'd go. And then I had a lunch and learn, if you will, with some interns, and they were speaking about where are your gaps. What do you think you could do differently? And I'm thinking, I think I'm pretty woke. I think I'm engaged. I think I'm
Okay.
doing this thing right. And then I realized that in all of the discussions that I was having with my team about diversity, equity, and inclusion, I was sort of narrow and stuck in my own world. I was thinking about African Americans, thinking about women, which is, that's personal to me, but I have a team. And so I had an individual that works for me, that was a non-white male. And I'm thinking, well, you know what? I never actually asked him directly, what is it like for you?
All right.
And I was like, wow, I'm so caught up in who I am and what I need and what I'm bringing to the table, and what I'm looking for, that I, didn't really focus on asking him what he needed specifically. What, did I provide a forum for him to speak? Of course, absolutely. And we had a great relationship. But I said to myself, I never really said to him, maybe because he was a male. So I found my blind spot.
All right.
And so to answer your question, that's where I'm like, okay, I have a gap here that I need to be mindful in my leadership, and I'm not so focused on what I think I'm missing that I don't see what everyone else needs. I hope that
Yeah.
answers your question.
It does, because that's a reconnecting, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
can really relate to that too, as an African American, as a woman. And we can talk about the many things that African Americans have gone through, and women have gone through, and we can connect in that space. But there's still spaces where there's gaps. I mean, there's still areas where there's gaps. And what I have come to understand about that are labels. We label people. We label people who've been through a divorce. We
Mm-hmm.
label people who have been on, been addicted to drugs. We label people who have gone through hardships, any type of hardships. We label people. We label people as slow. We label people, as smart. We label people all the time. And so I began to see that I was missing something, because it was creating biases.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
want to
And we
speak
label.
to that?
Yes, and but let me go back to when we talk about labels. We label
Okay.
our kids. I'm sorry, I
Yes.
love kids, and we label our kids slow
Yes.
it's like any kid will thrive in the right environment. And I'm not suggesting that kids will be A students. I'm suggesting that when we don't label and we provide them the attention and resources they need,
Hmm.
they become their best selves, reach
Yes.
their potential, whatever that is. But because we label, we often don't give them the time that they require and the resources. We don't see the jewel that they can become. We don't see the potential. So I just
Yeah.
had to say that. That kind of story, when you were talking about labeling people, we label our kids to the point where we stifle them and we don't give
Yeah.
them what their need,
Yeah.
what their needs are. So I'm sorry. So can you go back to your question? I got so hung up on the
No, so
kids,
I was just thinking about, because no, you were fine, because there are so many labels that are out there. And being in a space that you in, I have often heard women, just
but
women, it could be white women,
mhm, mhm.
but majority of black women have said, when I walk into a room, I'm the only one in the room.
Absolutely.
uh
Absolutely.
and so of course you can be easily labeled,
Mhm,
you know
mhm.
how do you navigate through that?
Um, it's difficult because most times you're perceiving, and our perception is our reality, right? And
Yeah.
oftentimes it's
Mhm.
correct. It's when I walk in the room, who will they see?
All
Will
right.
they see Kathy Lander, the North American powertrain controller?
That's right.
Or will they see Kathy Lander, the African American powertrain controller? Or will they see Kathy Lander, the woman controller? Who
Wow.
will they see? And I can't speak for all women, but when I walk in the room, I'm cognizant that I'm African American. I'm cognizant that I'm a woman, and I watch the room, and I'm so focused on, okay, when I speak, I watch reactions,
Hmm.
right? I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, he's not really hearing me, or he really doesn't want to hear what I have to say. And I'm so caught up in that I sort of miss sometimes my opportunity to make an impact. And sometimes when I feel like, and this is where I'm working on leading and being in the room and owning my space,
All right.
is when I speak. You either hear me or you don't, but I'm not going to dumb down or stifle my words. I'm going to show you who I am, because I can't control how you're going to perceive what I say or how you're going to perceive what I do, but I am going to do my job. And so it's walking in the room with some level of insecurity, but also knowing I still have a job to do. So it's not easy,
Right.
Regina,
Yes.
at
Okay.
all. Even coming on this podcast, I'm thinking, okay, well, what do I have to offer? What am I going to say that's going to motivate or or change the minds or thoughts of someone that might be listening. I only need to change one, but I had to think about, well, who am I to go on a podcast with Regina, this transformative speaker, etc. It's like, how can I change the world, right? Or change one person. And so the biases are real, and the impact that they have on us
Yes.
is just as real. So I am enough. So when I go in the meeting, I'm going to say what I'm going to say, and they're going to hear me
Yes.
or they're not.
Yes, yes. I love what you just said because women do struggle with am I enough? That's a big one, right? Am I enough? We see. I'm not being enough.
Hmm.
The other one is about enough too. It's not coming to my mind. It'll come though. But it's all around that being enough and and being worthy, right?
Yes, yes,
Having
yes.
being worthy enough to show up. And those are the things that not all women, but some women fight
Oh,
and
absolutely.
definitely been made to feel sometimes, or we have allowed ourselves to be made to feel that we were not enough.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And we have to remind ourselves that we are. I tell myself all the time, I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. And it's not always about work, right? It's about any time you feel like someone was chosen over you for one reason or another, or you didn't win this contest or that contest, or whatever it might be. I have to always remind myself, I'm enough. It's okay. I didn't get it this time. I don't know why, but I am enough. The outcome of a circumstance does not change my value. It
yes.
does not. My daughter, um, a year or so ago, applied for to be a debutante of an organization, and she
Okay.
wasn't chosen. She
Okay.
wasn't chosen. So my comments to Joy was, hey, you have a great GPA. You have great extracurricular activities. You are a beautiful, God fearing young lady. And so, what didn't happen today does not change who you are. You are enough. And so, I am trying to, for me, I have to keep reminding myself because I didn't quite grow up the same way as Joy.
That's right.
But I have to keep reminding her that you are enough. Your circumstance does not dictate your value.
That is so true. And the other one was good enough. Am I
Yes,
enough? And am I good enough?
exactly.
And fighting those, I call them demons.
Yes, yes, yes.
Fighting those voices, those demons in our heads can be a job within ourselves.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
just going back to some of the things you said that you were reading books, right? I
Hmm.
love that
Hmm.
on leadership.
Hmm.
One of the books, Kathy, that of course I'm a John Maxwell trainer, speaker, and coach, and we talk about leadership is all about influence, and that's really what you were
Hmm.
talking about, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, what books would you that you're reading that you have found embracing and really spoke to where you are?
The book I'm reading now is called "The Leadership Isn't for Cowards,"
Okay.
um,
Okay.
and it centers around having the courage
All
to
right.
lead. And it focuses mostly on leading people, right? It's not about strategic objectives and how to help the company earn $1 billion. It's really about having the courage to lead people. And one of the main themes is that you are impacting people's lives. I think
Yes.
sometimes we take lead. I'm going to work. I'm going to do my job, and I'm gonna, lead this and that. Then I'm gonna go home and do it all again, tomorrow. But that's the one thing that kind of sticks. You're impacting people's lives, their
Yes.
ability to succeed, their ability to thrive, to support their families. It's no small feat, and it's not a small job, and it is a huge, huge responsibility, and it takes a lot of courage. And so I'm about halfway through the book, but it is helping me um, to learn and navigate. And one of the things that happens in this book is you read the chapter, and there's a barcode at the end of the chapter that it's like a workbook.
Okay. Okay.
Hey, go off and do this assignment, or go think about these 3 or 4 things. And so it's not just a book. I read it and then I put it away. It really requires some thinking and some, call it, homework, for those of us who really want to change how we lead, or develop our leadership when it comes to people. Because at the end of the day, the people that work for us around us are our best resource, our most valuable resource. And without people, you can't get anything done. And certainly, if you're
Yes.
not a great leader, you're not going to get the most that you can out of the resources that you have. So
Yeah.
it's really, really, really important. And when I assumed this role in December,
Uh-huh.
one of the things I asked the man that I replaced was, okay, you remember I said I like math, right? I said, do you do anything? Do you produce anything? What report? What work do you do? And he's like, yeah, I don't produce anything. He says your most important role, your most important job will be leading the people. And he's
Yeah.
right. He's right. And so I'm like, okay, so let me make sure. And going into the role, I consider myself a good leader of people. But I'm like, okay, now I need to step it up, right? Leading, before I was leading in a way that if I found someone in my org, not found, but if there's someone who reported to me who didn't have the skill set needed, right? All right, okay, come on into my office and let me show you how to add and subtract. Come on into my office, let me show you how to do X, Y, and Z. We're going to do it
Okay.
together until you get it, right? It was
Yes.
more about the direct, you know,
Yes.
day to day. And so now it's more about not so much the day to day, but it's like understanding the organization, the people in it. What are the right moves? How do we develop people, etc. So I'm finding the book really, really, really good.
And it's called
Uh,
Leadership.
Leadership Isn't for Cowards by,
Leadership isn't
yeah,
for
the
cowards. Okay.
author last name is Stavers.
Okay.
Um, And the
Okay.
other book that I read a while ago, that Lean In by I think Sheryl Sandberg, um, who was
Okay.
um, executive at Google at one point.
Okay.
And it's more about being a woman and being in leadership, and how at the time, um, you know, women in leadership wasn't, it was, I won't say it was an afterthought, but we had women in leadership, but the environment around the women wasn't as conducive as it is today. We talk about maternity leave and things that she needed as an executive, that she honestly didn't think about until her circumstances changed. And so
Okay.
reading about her journey, and how Google and others started to accommodate who she was based on her experiences is something I'm reading in the meantime as well.
Yeah, so that's really good, Kathy, because I heard you talk about your mentors, and books can be great mentors, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But of course, too, we have physical mentors. Tell
Hmm.
me the one thing that one of your mentors that has just resonated with you and has driven you to where you are today, or has played that role.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, Regina. I can't say that there's one. What I can say is that um, if I could rephrase the question,
Okay.
I would say I have a village of people around me, and each group of people or each person plays a different role when it comes to me and developing, whether it be personally, professionally, or spiritually. And growing up, I would say that at every critical point in my life, there was one person that
Okay.
showed up at the right time. Always a different person, that
Yeah.
showed up at the right time, giving me the guidance that I needed that got me here today.
Okay.
And then I would say, professionally now, I have individuals around me that are authentic and will tell me, Kathy, okay, you know what, you can't say it that way, or Kathy, you need to
Okay.
change your approach for X, or change your approach, for Y. I've watched them, excel and become, get promoted up the ladder, etc. And most of them are men. They're not women. They're white men, who have, embraced me, and so the perspective is different. And I'll talk about, just briefly. I can't go into great detail, but one of the things
Okay.
that we're doing, at my company is, having men as allies for women,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Men as allies.
Yes.
And so if we're going to, move up in the organization, or become, a part of the executive suite, or et cetera, we have to obviously have men as our allies. And so the mentors that I have are helping me to grow and understand the business, of course, understanding my leadership and the things that I need to change. And so, I can't say that there's one person. It's just at every point in my life, there's been, um, the right person has entered at the right time. Because,
Okay.
Regina, I didn't always know that I was going to be here. Right? I didn't, know in high school or college that I was going to work at Ford Motor Company and be the North American powertrain controller. I had no idea.
That's
All I
good.
knew
Yes.
was do my best. I'm doing my best, and I didn't have a plan, but the right people entered at the right time.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I've heard you say several times, your passion is numbers, right?
Hmm.
And you follow your passion. You followed your
Hmm.
passion.
Hmm.
What would you say to others who really do have passions, but they're not embracing it. They're not following it because of all the other things that they are saying that's preventing them. Because I heard you say earlier, we always have opportunities.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's important to know what you like, what drives you. And I didn't always. I know I like numbers, right?
Okay.
And so I didn't necessarily call it a passion initially. It
Okay.
was, I like math. I go to school. I like math, right? And so when you're younger, you know what things you like, right? And just as I tell my daughter, what do you like to do? And we're going to find a career, if you will, that flows from your passion.
Okay.
And I can't even imagine not having numbers. I can't imagine being in a
Okay.
space where there are no numbers. And so you have to, know what your passion is, and you got to focus and get rid of all the noise.
Yes.
What is it that I really like to do? And and again, the roadblocks, right? There are always roadblocks. I read a lot about, I really wanted to be a singer, but my mom said I need to go and be a doctor, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we don't all have free reign and free and the ability to follow our passion because of other things around us, right? But
Yeah.
I would say when the time comes, whether it's later in life or when opportunity presents itself, there's nothing like understanding your passion, understanding what drives you,
Yes.
and excelling, in that space.
Yes, yes. I love that. And the fact that you said that you are training up your daughter in that perspective, because, my parents didn't know to do that. Um,
Mhm.
and to have an opportunity to provide that to our children is really awesome. So I commend you for that. You also mentioned in listening to you in being in the space that you're in right now, right? The compassion, the empathy, you know really making sure that you lead that way.
Mhm.
um Women have been hit tremendously right now dealing with this pandemic. Women have suffered at great losses. daycares have shut down.
Mhm.
All type of things have shut down. They have had to quit jobs in order to care for their family, whether it's their children or say a loved one.
Mhm.
And knowing that sometimes we are told not to bring our personal lives to work.
Mm, mm-mm.
What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I don't agree with that. We have to bring our whole selves to work. We have to be authentic in how we work and how we lead. And I'm not saying that it's easy because sometimes I don't bring my whole self to work. But I have to remind myself I am who I am. I had an occasion once I got this job. I started going around to the various plants that are under my responsibility.
Okay.
And I, want to meet the team and made sure that everyone was, present in the call. And we went around and gave a little bit of information about ourselves. And there was this one young lady who works with me or in my organization, and she talked about how she had just, adopted a baby and had another kid working from home, and I commended her for the adoption, and then after the meeting was over, I sent her just a simple email that said, "I am so grateful to have met you. Um, you're doing the work that needs to get done, and you're managing a very busy home. And if there's anything you need, you let me know." And her response was, "Wow, no one ever, approached me like that. I am so grateful. You recognize what I'm going through, etc." So we have to bring ourselves, our whole selves to work. We can't be afraid because it allows those around us, your leaders particularly, um, um, to help relieve stress and strain. And sometimes we don't know what's going on, and so, "Oh, Beth is always late to the meeting." I'm just making up a name. Beth is
Right.
always late to the meeting. She's not really dedicated, but you don't know what Beth has going on, right?
Right.
And so bringing your whole selves to work creates an understanding. It's going back to, sometimes it's not necessarily about can Kathy add or subtract, or does Kathy have great communication skills? Those things we see at work all the time. Opportunities to help the individual succeed. And so sometimes when bringing your whole self to work, it allows your leaders to also figure out how they can help you succeed. It's not easy, Regina, and sometimes it's not always received.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that because, you know, well, let me there are two questions I have that has come out of what you just said. One of the questions I have is that how, because you're right, supporting people um, who have really been hit by this pandemic. No one has gone unscathed, but there are people who have been damaged by it more than others, or who have suffered
Agree.
from it more than others.
I agree.
What are some things that Ford Motor is doing to address that? I did hear you say, men alliance, with women, but
Mhm,
what are some
mhm.
other things that they're doing to address this gap that has been created now?
Yeah, so most of, if you're not in the plant necessarily, most of us are still working from home, right? So
Okay.
we have not returned to the workforce.
Okay.
And we're 300%, 1,000%, a billion percent, always focused on the health and safety of our employees, right? So we
That's awesome.
have, processes in place and protocols in place to ensure that from just dealing with the pandemic, that our employees are safe.
Yeah.
And then, of course, our employees know, that if there are issues, concerns that they have, they should be obviously communicated with their leadership. So, can't go into great detail, but what
Right.
I can say is that the health and safety of our employees are 300% um, 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 important to us. It's it's first and foremost. And then while we're doing the work, obviously we're ensuring that that we're working safely together. And then when it comes to the hardships of the pandemic, any individual employee obviously has the opportunity or have the opportunity to go and speak with their leader about what their needs are. I will say, pandemic or not, we are family.
Okay.
It's a family oriented environment, and we care about those who work for us. Now, of course, just like any family, any relationship, any company, there are things that need to be worked on and improved upon. But one of the main things I like about being a part of the Ford family is that it is a family. And I am not reading a line from, the Ford playbook or anything like that. We are absolutely a family. And when I go to work and I lead my people, or lead those that work for me, I lead as if they're part of my family. It's about compassion.
Yes, 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 yes. And so that is great. Because what also hearing you say is that you you are on that road. You're training yourself that when you walk in the room, although you're important, you make everybody else around you the most important people in the room. You know,
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
wonderful,
It's the only way to
Kathy.
lead.
Is
It's,
the
it's the
only way to
only
lead.
way to lead. If you
Yeah.
have to be the biggest voice in the room, something's not quite right.
Yes.
You've got to
Yes.
allow your team, and those around you to shine, one, to promote their work, to grow and develop. And if you're always doing the talking, that's impossible.
Yes. Yes. I love that. And getting away from those type of thoughts, right? People, what people ought to know, what they should know, how they need to act, because it's really, those are traps. Uh,
Yes. Oh,
yes.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely. We don't all come from with the same packaging.
yes.
We all come from different backgrounds, different exposure levels, different education levels, just experience in general. And so the key thing about diversity is
Mm-hmm.
we're all different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we have to embrace those differences and understand, just because I need equity is not about, and I just learned this really, equity is not, and I always being equal, right? I
Uh-huh.
want to be equal. Equity is not about being equal. I don't
Okay.
need the same thing that Regina needs.
Yes.
So
Yes.
equity is about understanding the individual before you, and that's from a company perspective, relationship perspective, however you want to apply it. Equity is about understanding what the individual needs to succeed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that. And because you know what, even in gift giving, when you talk about it like
Hmm.
that, right? I really began to understand that, and this was years ago. I think people are more sensitive now, but I really
Hmm.
began to understand earlier on that gift giving is really not about you. And so when
Mm-mm.
people bring you something that they like, right? Well, you know what? I thought you would like this, right? It's
Yeah.
like, no,
Mm-mm.
that's not
No.
me.
Yeah. No. No.
Yeah, and that's really being able to walk with other people, seeing what they about. And but unfortunately, as people, we can be so about us.
Hmm.
Power. We can be power hungry. I was talking with a girlfriend
Yes.
earlier today, and one of the things that she said that I thought was so powerful, because oftentimes we say is that, yeah, but we're not supposed to be competitive, we're not competitive. She said, Regina, I actually reject that. What I
Hmm.
believe is that we are competitive with someone, but we don't compete against someone. I
I
was like,
like
well,
that.
go.
I like
Yeah,
that. I
yeah,
like
because she
that.
says we're going to be competitive, but there
Yes.
we have to be healthy in being competitive. How have, because you're in a very competitive field. Yeah.
Oh,
So
yes.
how have you
Yes.
trained your mind to think that way, or what have been some of the adversities or wins for you in that space?
I think,
Does that make sense?
you know, it does.
Okay.
But For me, I am competitive. I want to, and the word isn't necessarily win. It's I always want to get it right, um, be in the right place at the right time with the right output. I want to always get it right so I can win that way. It's not so much about winning a game or anything like that. But then when it comes to those that are in my peers, etc., I want them to win as well. And what I had to understand is, well, we all can't be the CFO of company X, Y, and Z, but by the same token, um, I struggle with why is he or she winning now, or why are he or she getting the promotion now and I didn't get it now, or why did he and she get that assignment, or he or she, and I didn't get it. So I am competitive, um, but by the same token, we're looking left and right at everyone else that's moving, right? Because you can't compete against yourself, right? You're always competing against, if you want to use the word compete, there's always someone or something that you're competing against. And it's only natural that you're going to ask yourself, why didn't I win today? Or why didn't I get that promotion? Or why didn't I get that lottery ticket? But so it really is about perspective and going back to saying, I am enough. I did my best to
Yeah.
win. I am competitive. I put my best foot forward. It wasn't for me today. It might be for me tomorrow, or maybe it won't, but
All
I am
right.
still enough. I'm still enough.
Yes, I love that. Jasmine says she knows her stuff. Yeah, she
She's
knows her stuff.
biased too. Jasmine's biased. Everybody's biased.
Yeah, well, that's just really the reputation too you have developed, right, Kathy? Your commitment, your courage to even face off with yourself. Because the reality of it is, and even talking with another friend of mine, when I said, and I love what you said earlier, it's not that we don't wrestle with these things, because we do, but it's how we allow them to wrestle with us. And
Exactly.
and, and
Exactly.
what I shared earlier was we have to slay the demons. It's not that they don't
Yes.
want to come out. We got to slay them though. We have to take control, because you can show up immature. However, when you talk about your network, right? Because
Hmm.
we're gonna feel things, we're gonna go through things.
Hmm.
But having that safe space of network, people
Yes.
who we can cry to, who can be non-judgmental. Has that been a
Yes.
hard space for you to develop? Was it easy to find your network? Because I have found it hard at one point to really have that network of people where I can feel and not be judged.
Yes. It hasn't been difficult. I will say that network for me consists of family and 3 to 4 really, really good friends that I've known for years, and I'm talking 20 plus years, not the acquaintance that I met yesterday.
Okay.
um, and they vary in what they bring to the table, and vice versa. I have one friend, she'll call me and she'll say X, Y, and Z. Something didn't happen right today. I said, this is you didn't call the right friend if you want me to tell you you did that right. You called the wrong friend, right? Because I don't agree with what
Right.
you just did.
Okay.
And so having individuals around me that will say, Kathy, one, sometimes it's you are enough. I call with my insecurities. No,
Amen.
no, you're fine. I call with my successes. I call with my stresses, and each person don't get the same call, right? If I'm looking for motivation and some spiritual guidance, I have a couple of my BFFs are ministers, and I call them up and I want to talk about, like, well, this I don't understand why God wants this to happen. Why did God do X, Y, and Z? Or I'll see something that just happened on the street, and I'll call and say, I don't understand this right here. This doesn't make any sense. And so,
Okay.
um, how can this be what God wanted, right? Then I have another friend. It's like if I just really want to vent and get it all out. And so each of my friends come with a different role. We all
Mm-hmm.
love each other. I love them, would go to the ends of the earth for them. And we have a great time together.
Okay.
Um, and I've developed that those relationships over years. And then of course I have my family who's always been in my corner. And I would tell you, Regina, I would not have been here without my family. I was raised by a
Mm.
village. Um,
Okay. Okay.
I was raised by, I had my mom. She was a single mom, but I had aunts and uncles who carried me. And then there was one particular couple, my mother's brother and his wife. I would not be here.
That's
When I
awesome.
say they filled the gap, they filled the gap. And I
Yeah.
have this um this burning sense of, wow, they did that for me. I have to do it for the rest of my family or whomever needs X or whomever needs Y to allow them to succeed. And so having that family, that village that brought me along, and then having my BFFs, I'll call them, with me now. Um, I have a circle of people around me who love me and I love them, that allows me to go to that workplace every day or face any other adversity that comes my way, to let me know that I am not alone. I am
Yeah.
not alone. And oftentimes, as women who's leading families or leading in corporate America, we're carrying this huge brick of weight on our backs. And sometimes
Okay.
you gotta drop it for a minute and know that you've got somebody that's around you that's going to help you exhale, right?
Yes.
And then pick
Yes.
that brick back up and keep going. It is absolutely imperative. You cannot do it by yourself because sometimes it's overwhelming.
Yes. It's letting go of that superwoman syndrome, right? Yes.
Yeah, we can't let it go, Regina. It's hard to let it go, but we're just trying to maintain within it,
Oh,
right?
I
It's
love
hard to let
that.
it go.
Yes, it is. It really is hard to let it go. Here, we got some comments right here. We have Celeste Burke, very powerful and such beautiful vision. Thank you, ladies. And then we have Natalie Rose. Okay, it's not Rose.
It's Rose.
It's Rose. Okay.
Rose.
Some bias, but facts. All right.
Yeah, she's biased. Everybody biased. And
All right.
those are my the loves of my life. You that are coming on
That's
and
wonderful.
sharing um their comments.
That is wonderful, Kathy. Tell me about some of your routines, some of your disciplines, because, that could be a struggle for people too, right? I've been
Hmm.
listening to books and different things about, oftentimes we get involved in this routine of making a list, making a list, making a list,
Hmm.
making a list,
Hmm.
checking off, checking off.
Hmm.
But I was listening to a speaker, and he was saying that, or actually, she was saying that develop routines and not a list.
Mm.
And what John Maxwell says, that if you lead by your values, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Your values will lead your day.
I love it. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me what you have spoken to, but tell me some of your routines and how you have incorporated those values.
I think, do you mean specifically in the workplace or just in general?
Just in general.
Yeah. Um, I, I I don't know that I would call them routines necessarily, but you
Okay.
might call them that. But when it comes to, I'll take say my daughter,
Mhm.
values and routine, it becomes my ultimate goal is for her to know that mommy is always here,
Okay.
and that mommy loves joy. And we have from the very when she's a young girl, I would say this is our model, Joy. Mommies always, and she would finish the sentence, and it's mommies always take care of their babies.
Yeah.
And so that for her, it's understanding that mommy loves her and mommy will take care of her, and that I expect that when she becomes a mommy, that she takes care of her babies. And so that's a routine that I have with Joy, sharing the value of love and the strength of family. And then, of course, for Joy, we're here in Michigan. All of my family is in Georgia. And so since Joy was a little girl, um, all of her vacations, Joy can't speak of a vacation without 15 others. Um, and so it's about that bond and strength. That's my routine with Joy. Um, and then but I also tell Joy, you are special, but we've been having these family gatherings long before you, right? But you just come along and now you're mommy's baby. And then when it comes to work, it's showing up every single day, as I said before, understanding that my job is to empower, develop, and ensure that my team has the resources that it needs to deliver and be their best selves at work. And so it isn't one thing necessarily, but it's leading and showing up authentically. How about that? That's my routine, is to show up authentically. I am who I am. I'm this Southern girl from Georgia, and every now and then when I get excited, you'll hear a twang or two and a ain't and a gonna and a fintu. That's who I am.
All
That's who
right.
I am. And so my
Yes.
routine and my value, according to Maxwell, is to show up every single day in every relationship authentically.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Any last words, Kathy, that anything that you had on your mind, that you have on your mind that you want to leave with the audience? I just want to thank the audience for showing up today. This has been, as Dr. Sampson would say, the late Dr. Sampson, this has been delicious. So any last words that you may have?
Yeah, just two things. One is just a reminder of the story I told earlier, is always know who you're on the playing field with. That take that regardless of circumstance, professional, personal relationship. That means understanding those around you and figuring out how to improve on the relationship, as well as how to interact within the relationship, understanding those strengths or weaknesses. And then the second thing I would say is words matter,
Yes.
positive words as well as negative words. I had an aunt who since passed away, and when we talk about being enough, she would say to me often, "You're one pretty black child." Now, one might say, "Oh, that's colorism," but let's put that aside for a second. And I would just, "Oh yeah,
Yes.
right." And so
Yes.
even to this day, sometimes when I'm in the mirror and I just got ready to go somewhere and I'm looking, I'm like, "Ooh, I'm a pretty black child." So positive reinforcement, please, to those around you and to the kids that you influence. That's really, really important to me. You never know the one thing you might have said or the one thing you might say or did, you might have done or you might do that can change the trajectory of someone's life. So please be mindful of what you say and what you do, and that the smallest deed, whether it be
Yes.
professionally or personally, can make a difference. It may not cost you anything. You may thought, "Oh yeah, I didn't mind doing that," but for the other person, it could mean the world.
Yes, thank you so much for those words of wisdom and encouragement. I want to thank everyone for being here with us today. Give yourself a hand for staying with us. And thank you, Kathy Friends, for being a friend to Exhale
Thank you.
with Regina. I just want to just once again share with us. I don't know why it's not coming up, but just share with us again what Exhale with Regina is all about. Exhale with Regina is designed to help women see themselves. Many women do not see their gifts, talents, and abilities, and it keeps them stuck in shame, false guilt, comparison, low self esteem, and a poor self image. Women can struggle with embracing themselves based on societal norms, family expectations, and distorted thoughts towards themselves. Women who embrace themselves see their beauty, not defined by how the world defines them, but how, as my sister Kathy has been saying, how she has grown to define herself within her space of living her life spiritually and on her career, as a mother, as a sister, as a daughter. These are the ways that she has defined herself. So she's in touch with constantly saying, who am I? So we want to make sure that we are coming out of those hidden places. And so thank you so much for listening. And everyone be blessed. We'll be back here just to give you some information. You can reach Kathy by going to LinkedIn, put in Kathy Lander, and you can reach her by going to LinkedIn. And thank you so much. And you can also go on my website, reginachall.com. I would love to hear from you. And please, please, please become a part of my email distribution. God bless you all. Take care.